Good day, ma'am. Good day, class. The topic that I'm going to discuss to you will be the Republic Act 7610 Article 6, or also known as the Other Acts of Abuse, wherein generally speaking, it talks about the violence, the abuse against the child, and it also tackles about what will be the punishment of a person who will commit and violate this specific law. Article 6 only has one section. This is the Section 10, entitled the other acts of neglect, abuse, cruelty, or exploitation, and the other conditions prejudicial to the child's development. In this section, we will just tackle what are the other acts of neglect, abuse, cruelty, or kalupitan, exploitation, which means the act of someone unfairly in order to benefit from their work, and other conditions, prejudicial. What do you mean when you say prejudicial? It means causing harm to the child's development, whether intellectually, physically, or socially, that affects the child's development because of the violence. Let's first tackle the letter A. Any person who shall commit any other acts of child abuse, cruelty, or exploitation, or to be responsible for other conditions prejudicial to the child's development, shall suffer the penalty of prison mayor in its minimum period. So, tinutukoy dito kung ang isang tao ay magko-commit ng act of child abuse, cruelty, kalupitan, exploitation, or kapangahasan at iba pang acts of abuses na nakakaapekto sa development ng bata, ay magkakaroon ng parusa na prison mayor in its minimum period. So ano yung prison mayor na yun? Ang prison mayor is one of kind of duration of imprisonment of a person, wherein prison mayor, it is a temporary disqualification that lasts from 6 months and 1 day to 6 years. So, prison mayor, ito yung isang uri ng imprisonment wherein naglalas nga yung pagkakakulong ng taong nag-commit ng kasalanan from 6 months to 1 day na pwedeng mag-lead to 6 years. Letter B. Any person who shall keep or have in his company a minor, 12 years or under, or who in 10 years or more his junior in any public or private place, for example, hotel, motel, beer joint, discotheque, cabaret, pension house, sauna or massage parlor, beach, and or other tourist resort or similar places, shall suffer the penalty of prison mayor in its maximum period and a fine of not less than 50,000 pesos. Right now, we are talking about the child who's in the care of someone who's not related to him or her or to the child. Kumbaga, itong bata nito ay nasa pangangalaga ng isang tao na wala namang relasyon sa kanya at dinadala pa sa kung saan-saan lugar, maaring public place or private place, katulad ng mga binanggit ko kaninang mga example places kung saan pwedeng dalhin yung bata ng tao na kumupkup sa kanya. So, ano magiging penalty para dun sa tao na yon? He or she shall suffer the penalty of prison mayor. Kagaya nung sinabi ko kanina sa letter A, yung prison mayor, ito yung one of a kind na imprisonment kung saan naglalas ito from 6 months to 6 months and 1 day that may lead to 6 years. Pero dito sa letter B, meron pa tong karampatang bayad. Ito yung 50,000 pesos. Pero ito din, binanggit din dito sa letter B na ito, this provision shall not apply to any person who is related within the 4th degree of consanguinity or affinity, or any bond recognized by law, local custom, and tradition, or acts in the performance of a social, moral, legal duty. So, kung yung bata ay meron namang relasyon doon sa tao na kumukupkup sa kanya, for example, ito ay tito niya, or guardian niya, or yung mismong magulang niya, na dinadala siya sa mga iba't ibang lugar na yon, hindi siya nag-a-apply. Hindi nag-a-apply itong penalty na ito, pati yung fine na iyon. Letter C. Any person who shall induce, deliver, or offer a minor to anyone prohibited by this act to keep or have in his company a minor as provided in the preceding paragraph shall suffer the penalty of prison mayor in its medium period and a fine of not less than 40,000 pesos. Right now, we are talking about the children who's in the care of someone that is also not related to him or her, but At the same time, binibenta siya nung taong kumukupkup sa kanya or ipinagbibili siya, ino-offer siya sa ibang tao. So ano yung karampatang parusa para sa taong ito? He or she shall suffer the penalty of prison mayor in its medium period and a fine of not less than 40,000 pesos. However, the perpetrator or yung perpetrator, when we say perpetrator, ito yung person na nag-act ng harmful towards to someone or dun sa bata. If the perpetrator be an ascendant or kamag-anak, the penalty shall be in prison mayor in its maximum period, a fine of not less than 50,000 pesos, and the loss of parental authority over the minor. Now, if the perpetrator of the child or yung tao na gumagawa ng abuse or violence against dun sa child at pinagbibili siya sa ibang tao, or ayun nga, ini-induce or hinihikayat na ibenta, i-offer sa ibang tao, ang magiging penalty sa kanya ay prison mayor in its maximum period will be 6 years and a fine of not less than 50,000 and the loss of parental authority over the minor. Maaari siyang matanggal ng otoridad na tawaging parent or guardian ng bata na iyon. Letter D. Any person, owner, manager, or one entrusted with the operation of any public or private place of accommodation, for example, whether it is for occupancy, food, drink, or otherwise including residential places, who allows any person to take along with him to such place or places any minor herein described, shall be imposed a penalty of prison mayor in its medium period and a fine of not less than 50,000 pesos and the loss of the license to operate. We are now talking about the person or the group of person who allows someone na alam nila na may kasama siyang bata na hindi naman niya kaano-ano na mag-accommodate doon sa kanilang area or doon sa kanilang business. Tulad ng binigay ko kaninang example, yung mga occupancy or food or drink area, and otherwise yung residential places, yung mga villages na alam nila na itong batang ito ay hindi naman kaano-ano nung tao na yon at nakita nila at inalaw nila na pumasok siya doon at ialaw nila na kupkupin ng tao na yun yung bata na yon, they will have a penalty of prison mayor in its medium period and a fine of not less than 50,000 pesos and the loss of license to operate, because they already know that that person has a child with him or her, then they do not do something about it. That's why they shall impose a penalty of prison mayor and a fine of not less than 50,000 pesos and the loss of license to operate. Mawawalan sila ng lisensya or ng permit para makapagpatuloy doon sa business na ino-operate nila. Letter E. Any person who shall use, coerce, force, or intimidate a street child or any other child to, number 1, beg or use begging as means of living. Number 2, act as conduit or middleman in drug trafficking or pushing. Or 3, conduct any illegal activities, shall suffer the penalty of prison correctional in its medium period to reclusion perpetua. We are talking about a street child or any other child that is a force for the personal interest of the perpetrator. Number 1, ginagamit yung bata para sa means of living, kumbaga para makasama niya doon sa bahay niya, possible na ganun, para sa personal interest niya. Number 2, act as conduit or middleman in drug trafficking or pushing. Yung mga bata ay ginagamit sa pagtutulak ng droga, sa paglalaganap ng mga droga sa mga lugar. Sila yung mga ginagamit na way para hindi sila madamay, or ayun nga, ginagawa silang middleman as middleman. Ayun. Number 3, conduct any illegal activities such as yung pagnanakaw, yung mga crime na laganap sa bansa natin na involve ang bata. So, maaaring sila ay finors ng someone to do that illegal activities. So, what will be the penalty for them? They shall suffer the penalty of prison correctional in its medium period to reclusion perpetua. Kanina, nagbagit tayo ng isang way or isang imprisonment, isang kind ng imprisonment ng duration of imprisonment ng tao, which is yung prison mayor. Ngayon, nagbanggit ulit tayo ng bago, which is yung prison correctional. This is another kind of imprisonment of a person which lasts for 6 months and 1 day to 6 years imprisonment. But this time, sabi dito, yung tao na magko-commit ng ganitong violence against a child ay mag-suffer lang for penalty of prison correctional in its medium period. So what its medium period? Its medium period will be 2 years or 4 months and 1 day to 4 years and 4 months to reclusion perpetua. Meron naman tayong isa pang another kind of duration of imprisonment of a person, which is reclusion perpetua. There is a misconception against the life imprisonment and reclusion perpetua. They may differ at the duration of the imprisonment of that person, wherein the life imprisonment, specifically speaking, it means habang buhay na pagkakakulong. While on the reclusion perpetua, the duration of the imprisonment will be 20 to 40 years. And in the life imprisonment, a sentence for a crime that is covered by special penal law. While on the other hand, the reclusion perpetua is a sentence for a crime that is under the revised penal code. Another thing, in life imprisonment, there is no accessory penalties. While on the reclusion perpetua, it comes with accessory penalties. Ano ba yung accessory penalties? Accessory penalties are perpetual or temporary absolute disqualification or perpetual or temporary special disqualification from suspension from public office, right to vote and to be voted for, suspension sa profession nila, sa calling nila, and then it may be a civil interdiction, indemnification, forfeiture, or confiscation of something. Kapag ang tao ay nasentensyahan ng reclusion perpetua, meron pa rin silang kakayahan sa accessory penalties. Ito nga yung maaring masuspend lang sila sa public office or sa right nila na bumoto at sa suspension nila sa calling nila or sa profession nila. So ayun yun sa reclusion perpetua. But on the life imprisonment, wala na talaga. Wala na, tinanggal na sa kanila yon, yung right nila yon. Kasi sa reclusion perpetua, nasuspend lang sila sa mga rights na ito. But on the life imprisonment, there is no accessory penalties. So in life imprisonment, there is no details of pardon specified. While on the reclusion perpetua, convicts become eligible for pardon after 30 years. So if someone is sentenced with reclusion perpetua, they are eligible for pardon or pwede silang makalaya after 30 years. So, ano ba yung mga crime na involved para masintensyahan ka ng reclusion perpetua? As amended, the RPC for the crimes murder, homicide, other intentional mutilation, serious physical injuries, they may sentence reclusion perpetua. And for the qualified seduction, acts of lasciviousness, or ito yung pag-show ng sexual part ng tao, and corruption of minors, white slave trade, or ito yung prostitution, shall be 1 degree higher than the imposed by law. So, kailangan daw na mas mataas yung ipataw sa kanilang parusa dahil ito yung mga enact nila. Ano naman mangyayari sa mga biktima ng pang-aabuso na ito, ng mga violence na ito? So, the victim of the acts committed under this section shall be entrusted to the care of the Department of Social Welfare and Development. Of course, after they have experienced all of that tragedy in their life, they shall be entrusted to the care of Department of Social Welfare and Development to make sure their security, to make sure their lives will be in a good care. So, in conclusion, in relation to our profession, which is education or future educator someday, this only reminds us that any profession doesn't give any permission for us to act violently towards a child, especially to us future teachers, future educators someday. We must always be careful on the action that we make, on every words that we say towards the child, because we don't know how we don't know how they will accept that action or words that we input to them. So, of course, kahit wala namang profession, we must not act violently against a child because a child must be nurtured, a child must be in school and be educated someday. They are not meant for any violent acts such as abuse, physical abuse, mentally abuse. They are meant to build and to be an individual, a grown individual someday in this society. So as teachers, our role is to guide them, our role is to develop them, nurture them with learnings and wisdom, and help them be an individual that will contribute a lot in this society. So that's all. That is my report, ma'am, and thank you, class.